Going to start reading now. And those of you, we have read Finnegan Fox's tales before, and I've told you about Save a Fox. It is a fox rescue in Minnesota. Bless me. Oh boy. And this is in loving memory of Mouse. And I don't know too much about Mousie, but obviously. Mouse was rescued from a fur farm. The fur farmer released her to Save a Fox Rescue because he didn't see her surviving the winter. Mouse lived a year with us at Save a Fox. The red fox species comes in many colors, but some of these colors such weak genes that they should not be bred. Thank you. Mouse was a sapphire gene fox. This gene is a weak gene. Problems include, but are not limited to, anemia, early loss of teeth, and generally weaker animals leading to a short life expectancy. When an animal inherits sapphire from both sides, you can get genetically weak foxes, very similar to double merle dogs. Mouse was the first fox, to our knowledge, to ever get stem cell therapy. She had been diagnosed with Chiari-Higashi syndrome. This is a genetic defect that affects the immune system, blood cells, and nervous system. She was on multiple prescriptions that helped provide her with enzymes that her weakened pancreas could not produce naturally. She was more susceptible to parasites and worms because of her weakened immune system, even with the given preventatives. In the end, the antibiotics, the prescriptions, the stem cell therapy, and the love she was given was not enough. Rest in peace, Mouse. We will never forget you. And now, on to the story. One night, Finnegan had an idea. He was going to dig a hole out of his fox yard and take everyone on an adventure. Finnegan dug quick and fast so that he wouldn't be caught. Vixie, Dixie, and Mutius quickly followed. Look at that bad foxes. Hi, Stacy. Mutius and Dixie knew they weren't supposed to leave and weren't as confident as Vixie and Finnegan. So they went back to their yard. Yes, and I was actually going to say there's so many good cams on YouTube, live cams. One of the ones that I also look at with our kitties is there's a lot of bird feeder cams. And between that and watching the kitties here, our cats go crazy with them. Just watching the fluttering birds, or here, I know Debbie got swatted a couple times, so that's all right, Tina. That's all right. This is what I do. I will stop talking and go down a rabbit hole. So Finnegan and Vixie wanted to run and explore. Vixie found a rabbit in the prairie, so they decided to jump through the long grass and chase the rabbit until they lost it in the forest. They frolicked through the woods and came into someone's backyard. They saw a swing set. Finnegan and Vixie decided to play on it for a while.
I did not know you like that. Okay.
Have a good day, Tina. But you're more than welcome to come anytime you want. It was getting late, and there were all sorts of unfamiliar sounds and smells. They decided they'd better head home, where it was safe. They heard howls as they walked through the woods. Then they saw who was making them. And it says, did you know coyotes are much faster than foxes, but foxes are often known to outsmart coyotes by their quick zigzag movements. They quickly came up with a plan to outsmart the coyote. Vixie dodged to the right, and Finnegan ran through the coyote's legs. They both ran as fast as they could to escape the coyote and get home. Of course, the kicker is, on the Save a Fox rescue, they have a couple coyotes, I believe. I don't think they're out with the foxes, but I know that they have at least one. As the sun was rising, they made it back home to Save a Fox rescue and found their gate to be let back in.
Where are you? Where are you?
Finnegan and Vixie were so excited to be back home with Motius and Dixie. It says, did you know? In the wild, a red fox will have a territory of 2 to 3 square miles. With all that extra room comes dangers like coyotes and hunters. Vixie and Finnegan talked about the fun they had outside. Dixie and Motius listened closely, especially to the scary parts. After their long night exploring, they definitely needed a nap. Finnegan was woke from his nap by Kipper tugging on his tail. Kipper was so eager to learn about digging, so Finnegan decided to teach Kipper the fox kit to dig his own mighty hole for the next adventure. It says, did you know? In the wild, foxes dig holes to create dens for their families. It is a strong, natural behavior. I guess that's where the term foxhole came from. Read it again game. You've probably had a lot of fun reading about Finn and Vixie's big adventure. Now for a little extra fun, read it again. This time look for one bug somewhere in each illustration. Oh, cool.
What's that?
That's interesting. Ah, I see. Now that I'm looking for it, that's kind of cool. Yep, there's a bee. I guess the bee would be the bug here.
No? Okay.
Caterpillar. No, actually, these are not FFRC books. These are just basically books that, I get and I read them. Sometimes they're cat related, sometimes they're not. This is basically fox related. And every now and then there are some FFRC books, the Adventures of Derecho. But they sell out really quick. So you have to really get in on it when I know we had at least a couple. All right. So next I'm going to finish Cattails because I've read this a couple times. And these are, again, this is a combination of quotes and kitties. And this book looks like it's all quotes. This page, I should say. They say the test of literary power is whether a man can write an inscription. I say, can he name a kitten? And that's from Samuel Butler. Alright. Oh, God. That's awful, catapractor. There's a cat closed inside. Where do you see a cat closed inside, Andrew? I know all of the kittens are in Patty's place right for the night. That's why. Oh, okay. All right. I thought they were in for the night.
No, just say.
All right. Well, then it's going to be pandemonium soon. Some more quotes. It is as. Wait a minute. I'm going to sneeze. Okay, I hope that's it. All right. It is as easy to hold Quicksilver between your finger and thumb as to keep a cat who means to escape. That's from Andrew Lang. Rare creatures, smug at time, coy and aloof, yet with a curl of the tail or a nudge of their warm nose, their affection can enter as quickly as it goes. That's from Louis Fairbanks. Thank you. Next is from William Wordsworth. What intenseness of desire in her upward eye of fire. With a tiger leap halfway, now she meets the coming prey. All right, the next one is a quote from, or a passage from Laura Lee Hope from the Bobbsey Twins at School. Meow, cried Snoop as he came slowly out of the box in which he had ridden from Cuba. Out walked the black cat. He looked about him strangely for a moment, and then began to purr and rubbed up against Flossie's legs. They all looked anxiously at Snap. The dog glanced at the cat, stretched lazily, and wagged his tail. Snoop came over to him, and the two animals sniffed at each other, Mrs. Bobbsey holding Snap by the collar. Then, to the surprise of all, Snoop rubbed against the legs of the dog, and on his part, Snap, wagging his tail in friendly, welcoming fashion, put out his red tongue and kissed and licked Snoop's fur. He's kissing Snoop! He's kissing Snoop! Cried Freddie. Then there's this awesome picture of a kitty with finishing a meal of a fish bone. All right, next page. I'll read you the quotes first. First one is from Alfred North Whitehead. If a dog jumps into your lap, it is because he is fond of you. If a cat does the same thing, it is because your lap is warmer. And then there's a little passage from D.H. Lawrence, Woman in Love. A young gray cat that had been sleeping on the sofa jumped down and stretched, rising on its long legs and arching its slim back. Then it sat considering for a moment, erect and kingly. And then, like a dart, it had shot out of the room through the open window doors and into the garden. So we're going to hear the passageway about Remington, the horticulturalist. And again, there's the picture of Remington. I love these pictures in here. They just capture, kitties perfectly. So Remington, the horticulturalist. Remington was named for Frederick Remington, one of my favorite Western artists. When Remington came into our lives as a kitten via a friend and the local veterinarian's assistant, he immediately gave our hearts that tug. He is the most tranquil of the family, loves to have his stomach scratched, and any lap in the house is his bed at any time. He is now 8 years old and, shall we say, a bit chunky. It seems to have a perpetual smile on his face, like maybe the garden is affording him extra pleasures. Are you saying there's a cat out here? That's actually not a closet. That is actually the welcome room. So if there's a cat out in there, that's okay, because they're not trapped in there, because there's a whole maze of rooms. So he's not trapped. Is that what you're talking about, Andrea? Let me kind of show you that. Hopefully that's what you're talking about. See this? It's the welcome room. Right? So it's not a closet. And there's actually food in here. There's a litter box. And then there's a door here that goes out to another part of the room. So they're okay. We don't really have, there's not really any closets here. So we do have places where we put kitties for the night. If there's cats that So, hopefully that's what you mean, Andrea. All right. Just looking around. They're all mellow. Oh, you decided to wake up, Candy. Hey! Hi! All right. Look at this. I shall call you Little Derecho. Doesn't he look like Derecho? I think he does. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Look, remember when Derecho came in? He's got that little Derecho look. Maybe I'm nuts. Ajay, did you see when I opened the door? There's no closet. Trust me. Trust me. Now, sometimes cats will even go in here. And that's okay, because they can all get out. So, alright. Let's move on. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe she means the cabinets. Because they go into the cabinets all the time. And that's okay too. They can get out of the cabinets. Alright. Some more quotes. Leonardo da Vinci. The smallest feline is a masterpiece. Next one is from Rudyard Kipling. The cat, he walked by himself, and all the places were alike to him. And Andrea, I can assure you that they're okay. There is no place here that a cat could get stuck. They can open up all these. We got the back closet. Well, it's not the back welcome room, and it's really the front welcome room. This place has been really, yeah. They can open these doors really easy. Heinrich Heine has wild beasts he created later. Lions with their paws so furious in the image of the lion. Made he kittens small and curious. Here, let me just show you. We call this Tonio's den because Tonio was a cat that was here that would always go in here and sleep on the towels. Can I open this? Hi. Is anybody in here? Nope, nobody's in there. Hi. So, and they're allowed to do that. These do not stay closed. They can always open them. So, yep. So, nope. And actually, if the cat was sick, you wouldn't see him out here. The sick cats are quarantined, and the cats you see here are all they're all well. All right. Cats are rather delicate creatures, and they are subject to a good many ailments. But I never heard of one who suffered from insomnia. Yeah, no kidding. That's from Joseph W. Crutch. Author unknown for this one. Gentle eyes that see so much, paws that have the quiet touch, purrs to signal all is well, and show more love than words can tell. Graceful moments touched with pride, a calming presence by our side. A friendship that takes time to grow, small wonder why we love them so. That's from author unknown. Sarah Orne Jewett has a quote here. When she walked, she stretched out long and thin like a little tiger and held her head high to look over the grass as if she were treading the jungle. And the last quote, and I want to show you the pictures before I read you the last quote because they're very cute. We got the kitty sleeping with the books again, and then we got the kitty who wants to get packed in the suitcase. Cats are rather delicate creatures, and they are subject to a good many ailments. Oh, I read that one. Okay. Next page. Excellent. Look at this picture. Called Too Pooped to Participate. Our cat, whew, that was interesting. Our cat assumes this position from time to time on the rim of our love seat in the den. I knew I would capture this pose on canvas someday. Knowing her love for climbing trees, I believe she made the perfect model for this work. Putting her outside, hanging on this limb, made a nice silhouette, with the testy mockingbirds upstairs ready to peck and irritate. It was hi! Thank you for joining me, C. Dot. Is that C. Dot? I don't know. It might be C. Dot. I thought C. Dot had a collar.
She took the collar off.
Oh, okay.
When you started becoming a good boy, she took the collar off.
Oh, that's no problem, Andrea. We're glad you're here. And we appreciate you caring so much. So, thank you. And greetings from Germany, or greetings to Germany. We have a lot of German viewers here, Andreas. We hope that you'll stay and watch. Nope, C. Dot just left. Okay. Give you 1 second. All right. It was a tempting location for a sleeping cat and proved to be a great fun to compose and paint. I'm sure there are many people who have felt exactly as our cat did that day. She expresses an attitude that maybe we should simply adopt now and then to slow down the day, and at the same time boost hammock sales. And there's a couple quotes here. Next, first one is from Lewis Grizzard. You call to a dog, and a dog will break its neck to get to you. Dogs just want to please. Call to a cat, and its attitude is, what's in it for me? Next quote is from Robert Stearns. Since each of us is blessed with only one life, why not live it with a cat? All right. Finally, I am on the last page. But I want to show you the picture of the very last page. And now I'm going to read it. This is actually another quote. Carl Van Vechten, The Tiger in the House. It is perfectly possible, a fact which I have proved scores of times myself, to work not only with a cat in the room, but with a cat on one's shoulder or in one's lap. In a drafty room, indeed, the cat makes a superior kind of paperweight. Hello, Carbivio. Cats Cats, to be sure, love to play on tables with loose papers and pens, but a little care will keep them from doing damage. How welcome is the soft paw top on the pen, with the look of surprise that invariably follows to the tired writer. So that is Cattails. All right. Next book we're going to read, and actually I think this is Lynette's books. This is called Mr. Magnolia. Not to be confused with Magnolia the kitty that I have at home. All right, Mr. Magnolia. Mr. Magnolia has only one boot. He has an old trumpet that goes root-toot. What are you doing up there? Are you peeking down at me? And two lovely sisters who play on the flute. But Mr. Magnolia has only one boot. In his pond lives a frog, and a toad, and a newt. He has green parakeets who pick holes in his suit. And some very fat owls who are learning to hoot. But Mr. Magnolia has only one boot. He gives rides to his friends when he goes for a scoot. What did you ask, Vid? I didn't see what you asked. Thank you, Andrea. We're glad you're here. Vid Kemi, ask me again. I didn't see what you asked. And the splash is immense when he comes down the chute. But Mr. Magnolia has only one boot. Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought I did answer that, yeah, these are all published books. The volunteers didn't write these. And so some of these books are about cats. It's not specific to the cats here at FFRC. I try to pick some books that have a similar theme. Like I know a couple weeks ago I read this book, Betty Tales. It's a true story of the brave bobblehead cat. And the reason why I picked that is because there's a lot of bobblehead cats here. A lot of CH cats. The cats that have trouble walking. That. So I do try to pick those. Ramsey, I believe, is in bed for the night, Carbivio. All right. Just look at the way that he druggles for fruit. Oh, yeah? The mice all march past as he takes the salute. Look at the mice right by my fingers. And his dinosaur. What a magnificent brute! But Mr. Magnolia, poor Mr. Magnolia. Mr. Magnolia has only one boot. Hey! Wait a minute. Now then. Keep going. What's this? Look! It's a boot. It's a boot. Whoopee for Mr. Magnolia's new boot. Good night. That is the end of Mr. Magnolia. Now, his boots don't match. Alright, so the next one is same author, Quentin Blake. This is called Mrs. Armitage on Wheels. Let me show you the cover. Mrs. Armitage was out on her bicycle. Breakspear the dog ran alongside. I'm all right, Ms. M. How are you? A hedgehog walked across the road. Tring, tring went Mrs. Armitage to the bell. Hello, Magic. You didn't stop and say hi or bite my shoes. I feel a little left out. What this bike needs, says Mrs. Armitage to herself, is a really loud horn. Mrs. Armitage bought 3 horns. They were all very loud. Beep, beep, honk, honk, pahika, hika, went Mrs. Armitage on her horns. Yes, Kitty's mom, Cindy has written a couple stories on some of the resident cats, mainly Derecho. Then the chain came off. By the time Mrs. Armitage had got it on again, her hands were all black and greasy. What this bike needs, says Mrs. Armitage to herself, is somewhere to wash your hands. So she got a bucket of water and a towel and a soap rack with a bar of soap. And she hung them all onto the bike. And she went with beautifully clean hands. What this bike needs, says Mrs. Armitage to herself as she cycled along, if it's to be looked after properly, a complete toolkit. So she got a toolbox with spanners and screwdrivers and hammers and cans of penetrating oil, and she fixed it on the back of the bicycle. And off she went. By now, Mrs. Armitage was beginning to think about food. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is somewhere to carry a light snack. So she got a tray of apples and bananas and cheese and tomato sandwiches and a holder for a bottle of lemonade and a flask of cocoa and a special basket for bones and dog biscuits for Breakspear. And she fixed them all to the bike and off they went. But by now, poor Breakspear was feeling quite tired, running along beside the bicycle. You could tell because his tongue was hanging out and he was panting. What this bike needs, says Mrs. Armitage to herself, is something for a faithful dog to ride on. So she got some iron brackets and some nuts and bolts and some cushions, and she made a seat for Breakspear, and off they went. They had stopped beside the road for some sandwiches and dog biscuits when it began to rain. Great heavens, said Mrs. Armitage. What this bike needs, Breakspear, is something to keep the rain off. So she got 2 umbrellas, one large, one small, and she fixed them up on the bicycle and off they went. Riding through the rain, Mrs. Armitage began to feel rather downhearted. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is a bit of cheerful music. So she got a transistor radio, cassette player, and a lot of cassettes of cheerful music, and a mouth organ so that she could join in. And she fixed them all to the bike, and off they went. Mrs. Armitage was turning the pedals so fast and blowing the mouth organ so hard that soon she was nearly exhausted. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is a bit of extra oomph. So she got some wood and some ropes and some tarpaulin. She rigged up a mast and a sail, and she added a few yards of bunting and an anchor into the bargain. Hi, little guy, gal. I don't know who. And off they went with the wind behind them, faster and faster and faster until I wonder if this is Miss M. I bet that it is.
No.
No?
Miss M is the mama of the 4, I think.
Okay. Crash! Crunch! clang, clatter, thud. Paharta. What this bike needs, Breakspear, said Armitage Mrs. Armitage, as she picked herself up from the wreckage, is taking it to the dump. And what I need is Whoopee! Did I miss a page? And what I need is Whoopee. Okay, yep. And then, but what these roller skates need, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, what these roller skates need is so that's the two books that, let me put these back and I will be right back. Hello, British Shorthair House. Hi. Rachel. Thank you. I gotta. Hi. You haven't played with my shoes today. I'm feeling a little left out. I'm playing a little left out because Magic hasn't played with my shoes. Yeah? No? Alright. You don't want to play with my shoes? No? Okay. You're getting too old for that, huh? Alright. So, I have some stories about 101 rescue puppies. So I'll start reading from that. One family story of fostering dogs, love, and trust. Puppy art. That's pepper, chili, curry, and nutmeg. I didn't pose that. If you hang out long enough, this awesome stuff happens by itself every day. Look at this picture. Look at how great this picture is. Is that great? They're all sleeping. The spirit of the pack, and this is the prologue. Something extraordinary happens at our house. Foster pups come here in turmoil, and the spirit of the pack settles them. More than 20 years ago, our original 4 dogs welcomed our first baby, Grace, with generosity and warmth. It was an early moment in the creation of what it now feels like our pack's collective soul, passed from dog to dog over time until it seems we've just had one deeply melded, ageless pack. I feel that grounded, wise spirit at work every day in this house. It's okay, you can say it, crazy dog lady. Once upon a time, I would have agreed with you, but that was before I had lived in a pack. Alright, so look at this just adorable picture.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
I'm going to put this down on the floor just as you see it. But I want you to see there's an out. So no kitties will ever get stuck in this thing. I just think it would be fun for them to meet halfway.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, treats.
Alright, so the introduction. Light a candle. They are 2 weeks old. So far, their whole world has been smell and touch. Their mama's belly, their litter mate's warmth. Soon they will begin to see and hear. And I get to shape the world that greets them. This scenario plays out again and again in our lucky home. Thanks to a whole lot of people who work to get unwanted puppies out of danger and into foster care, pups land with us and experience an environment that nurtures their little souls. With each calm voice, each gentle touch, each happy interaction, we teach them to anticipate joy. Then we send them out to create some. What's it worth? Does it even matter? In a world filled with so much human suffering, does it make a difference to save a puppy? It certainly matters to that puppy. What a gift to be able to do just that. I would wager it matters to the family who eventually can't imagine their life without that special dog. Alright, come to think of it, I'd say that it matters to the people who stop me in the grocery store, delighting in the latest antics of our newest pups. Everyone knowing there's a happy ending in sight. I'd even suggest that it matters to the random acquaintances who tell me they go to my Facebook page when they're feeling stressed because it reminds them that there's good all around us. I think in a decade or two, it'll matter to the puppies who get taken in by all the kids who stream through this house just to see pups and decided to foster when they grow up. I know they're just dogs, but by taking them in, I like to think that there's a ripple effect. We all have the choice of whether to sit around and curse the darkness or to light a candle. The sun this sure is a fun candle to light. And so there's a picture here, and it's called How It Started. Zoe put us on the path to fostering. She died, and we were heartbroken. I knew we needed a new life in our house, but we weren't ready to replace her. Somebody suggested fostering. The first one. Give us puppies we won't like, I said. It was our first time fostering. We were afraid of getting too attached. So they gave us a tiny Boston Terrier to the family that loved big dogs. Here's our daughter Grace with Moon Pie. Oops. There's Grace with Moon Pie. The power of Eli. Tiny Moon Pie was the first foster to claim this best of all possible spots. When a confused rescue pup arrives after a big journey to our house, our massive, gentle Eli can convey in an instant what will take the rest of us days. It's safe. You're good here. Look at that. Look at that. Chapter 1 is the first litter. It was shocking how quickly it became normal, and even just right, to having 10 dogs living in my house. Of course, we'd always have more dogs than most folks. Tom and I had 3 dogs between us when we got married. And our daughters grew up surrounded by pets. But when our dog Zoe died, we just weren't ready to find a new pack member. We decided to foster instead. In those first 6 months, we dipped a toe in. We fostered 5 dogs, each for a few weeks. We got the hang of it and even began to master saying goodbye. Then in April, there was a fateful post on Facebook. Someone had surrendered a mother dog, Nala, and her less than 1 month old pups at a local shelter. The family needed a foster pronto. Puppies this young are a terrible risk for disease at any shelter because of their undeveloped immune systems. I looked at Nala's face in that photo. I thought about that exhausted nursing mom who'd been caring for these 7 pups around the clock, only to find herself suddenly homeless. A lot of terrible things happen in life, and I can't do a darn thing about most of them. It struck me that this was a tiny little tragedy in my corner of the world that our family could remedy. And look at the picture of this doggie. That's the mommy. We contacted the shelter, and the next day our family hit an all-time high with 10 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 fish on the premises. I won't lie, I did not anticipate that fostering Nala and her pups would become a full-time job. But the truth is, I never had more fun. Where's my postcard? I wonder if I left it in there. Well, it doesn't matter. The day after we said yes, Tom and I found ourselves at the shelter with our giant van. Smiling people were loading supplies, so many supplies, into the back and relating bits and pieces of this story. Mind you, a litter's rescue story is sometimes like the old game of telephone. The gist of it is that Nala had been loved, but her pregnancy was unintended, and the puppies were simply too much for the owners to handle. On the drive home, Tom and I planned our approach. Mama dogs are famously protective, so we anticipated having a bit of difficulty handling Nala and the pups. We had prepared to set them up in a makeshift den in our finished basement, intending to give them some space. We assumed we need to spend some time earning Nala's trust before attempting to handle the pups. Not so much. About 3 minutes after arriving on our property, Nala, visibly exhausted, every bone in her body loosened, and the wagging began, as did the nudging for petting, and finally, "Oh, sure, you can snuggle them. Actually, could you watch them for a minute while I hang out with the man?" My husband is catnip to dogs. "Hello, Ed Power. How are you?" That human interaction hurdle delightfully cleared, we still assumed we need to stick to our plan of keeping our dogs Eli and Rocket far from Nala and the pups. Nala had a different concept. She took a look at those big male dogs staring from the window and happily swished her tail. All sorts of body language indicated she was utterly relaxed, even eager. Stunned at her goodwill, I put Eli and Rocket on lead and brought them out near the pen. More wags and a gentle reach toward a sniff, then a nap. In a photo taken an hour after her arrival, she's on the other side of the pen, snuggling with Tom while her babies snooze inches from Eli. She wasn't irresponsible. She just knew. What followed were 5 miraculous weeks enjoyed by 4 humans, 10 dogs, and 2 cats, who were all fascinated by each other. I had not even dreamed we would have this intermingled joy. I had pictured us humans visiting Nala and the pups in the basement. Look at the picture here. While our own pets went about their normal lives in the rest of the house. Instead, Nala loved our dogs and cats, delighted in hanging upstairs with our pack, and even slept in bed with us from the very first night. She popped down into the puppy den whenever she wished, nursing, cleaning, and playing with the pups. Because the weather was glorious, we often brought all the puppies out in the backyard, while Nala happily allowed our dogs and cats to interact with all of them. Being around a litter of puppies for an hour is always the same. They're darling, they're crawling all over you, and you can't help but laugh. What was strikingly new to me was Nala's litter was the intimacy, and I'll just say it, friendship, that came with living together. Hello, Magic. Now he's playing with my shoes. Hi, thank you, Magic. We knew each and every one of these puppies, and a surprisingly sweet kicker, they knew us right back. First is Pretty Girl. Her markings were so perfect, she looked like a paint-by-numbers dog. But the most compelling thing about her was her leadership. She was out front every time, first to greet any new situation, always confident. Helga was the comic relief of the litter. This giant girl would suddenly catapult herself across the group from time to time. Prone to vocalizing with little grunts and squeals, she was often the first to come over to snuggle. Next is Little Ben. This sweet runt of the litter was at one point so sick the vet told me to prepare myself because they have to have the will to live. What? Tom and I both felt there was a phase where we saw him leaving us, gazing into some otherworldly sphere. Dang it, I didn't want him going anywhere, and after a week of obsessive care, he perked up. He turned out to be full of charisma and the biggest cuddler of the bunch. Speckle Boy. This is the guy you want your daughter to marry, as steady as they come. Not out front, not lagging behind, just always taking part of things with a great smile and so much warmth. Speckle Girl. The adventurous spirit was constantly exploring, thinking and figuring things out. The future astronaut of the family. Next is Sweetie Pie Love Girl. This litter had been given a color theme by the shelter, so officially the pups had names like Amber and Cobalt. We couldn't for the life of us keep those names straight. We found ourselves calling them what they looked like to us. Those silly names stuck. This particular little girl had no obvious features that struck us in those first few hours. So we named her last. We felt a little bad about that, so we gave her a name to reassure her that, although she was last, she was in no way least. Amusingly enough, Sweetie Pie Love Girl was the very first puppy chosen on adoption day. And then we have Fluffy, this gorgeous girl with a lush, soft coat was always either rustling madly or sitting quietly alone, so obviously content with her own company. It was wildly exciting to see these individual souls just explode with growth and development right before our eyes. I remember contemplating where these 8 dogs would have been emotionally, physically, developmentally if they had been stuck in a loud dog run instead of nestled at our house at this tender time. I think my fate was sealed right there in that thought. I've gotten those thoughts many times. While we have gotten a bit of experience letting go with our first few fosters, this goodbye was on another level. After 5 weeks with Nala's family, we were emotionally entangled as never before. Making it even more challenging, the public shelter required us to leave the puppies there on a Wednesday night prior to being put up for adoption on Saturday morning. Even now, I can't stand to think about those 3 days when they were sitting in a concrete pen, terrified. I hated the fact that, in contrast to what I've enjoyed with our first 5 rescues, it came through a private organization called Homeward Trails Animal Rescue. There could be no looking these adopters in the eye, no reassuring after photos in my email inbox. This time, we would have no idea who adopted our babies. The saving grace of that period was my anguish prompted Tom to say the 3 words that have now comforted me through the letting go of 105 plus beloved puppies. Trust the dogs. The second he said it, I knew he was right. I had done a lot of thinking about how fostering rather dramatically builds faith in people, in the universe. But the last bit hadn't clicked into place for me yet. You have to have faith in the dogs themselves. They can complete that last lap of the relay, securing the all-important love that'll keep them safe forever. Just by being themselves, they can make it all turn out right. I took some deep breaths, trusted the puppies, and said goodbye to our first litter. Almost a year earlier, as our family was considering the idea of fostering, Tom's one stipulation was that we'd agreed never to adopt a foster. We felt if we opened that door, every single dog we took in would result in the roller coaster of emotion. Is this the one? He was so right. It made so much sense. we all agree, no adopting fosters. See that beautiful shot of Nala at the start of this chapter? That's her at the beach with us after we adopted her. That's funny. And here, I didn't see that coming, but you know what? I guess I should have. This is Nala snuggling with her daughter. I'm not sure how something so commonplace can be so extraordinary to witness, but it is every time. So I think I'm going to leave it here, and we will pick this up probably in 2 weeks. So I am going to get going. It's been a long day for me. I had to go to a doctor's appointment this morning, and then I just worked all day. So have a good day, everybody. Somebody's in here. Thanks, Dutchie. Zelda.